My next adventure brings me to the magical Whitsunday Islands, where I'm supposed to be joining a group of very experienced sailors. In just a couple of hours, we're going to jump on 2 boats, just over here at Able Point Marina, which is behind me, and we're setting sail on these beautiful turquoise waters. Nestled just off the coast from Mangrove Beach, the Whitsundays are an ideal place to explore the Great Barrier Reef. These islands are considered to be amongst the most beautiful cruising grounds in the world. We were given a quick brief and shown some maps to get us started on our journey.
While we're just on the south side, just look out for Spitfire Rock. Yep.
Then it was time to hit the high seas.
We'll get out here and we'll pull it in.
With the wind in our hair, all aboard quickly adjusted to life on the sea. Pretty easy to drive these puppies. Small wheel, easy manoeuvrability, and it's a cat, so it goes faster.
Ready to attack?
I was among real salty dogs from way back, and the race was on, with 2 sailing boats to steer wherever the wind would take us. This marine playground was ours. We set compass for the northern part of the Whitsunday Islands to Hook Island. Being a water bunny from way back, I was used to doing my share of shifts and watches on boats. The best thing is that the 74 Whitsunday Islands, formerly known as the Cumberland Group, are mostly uninhabited. These forest-covered islands, for the most part, are undeveloped, and truly, this is my kind of paradise. It was typically tropically hot and humid. But even paradise has hidden dangers. They said not to act like a wounded fish here because it used to be called Shark Bay. What's that big grey shape? There was nothing else to do with the day except wait for that Whitsunday sunset. Described as the last archipelago to be explored and settled by people of European descent, the islands have a rich Aboriginal history, stretching back many thousands of years. We're at the entrance to Refuge Bay, and we're actually at the Hook Island National Park. We're about to take a walk. This is a green ant's nest. You can see how they glue the leaves together. This is a smaller one. It's probably the kids' room. Oh, here they come. They're not very happy. Sometimes when you're walking along the bush, these guys will drop onto you and they bite, and they just keep biting, they won't let go. The Aboriginals eat those green ants. It's said their abdomens taste like fizzy lemon and they're high in vitamin C. But why eat ants when you have the best seafood on your doorstep? Nara Inlet area was commonly used by the Ngora Aboriginal group prior to European settlement. I soon found the remains of an Aboriginal seafood smorgasbord. A pile of discarded shells like this is known as a midden. These shells here are what's left of the Aboriginal seafood feasts. You can see there's an oyster, little snails that they often eat. Mostly oysters. Hook Island is rugged and a true wilderness island. Hook Peak is the highest mountain in the Whitsundays and the perfect lookout at almost 500 metres to view the seascape. It's also the second largest island on the Whitsunday chain. As I climbed to the peak, I could only imagine how Captain James Cook must have felt as he named and mapped this coastline in 1770. He was the first European to do so, and when he laid eyes on the land, it still belonged to the Aboriginals. It's disheartening to reflect that in such a short time, Europeans displaced the Aboriginal people after they seasonally occupied this area for at least 8,000 years. Rising sea levels cut these mountain peaks off from the mainland 6,000 years ago to form this beautiful archipelago. There's not much water on these rocks right now. In fact, they're pretty dry, but I bet in the wet season a lot of water will move over into the inlet. Splash! But enough of this staying dry. My friends know me well and had brought me to Hook Island as some of the most spectacular reefs can be found in this northern section. My ride was right on time.
A rescue party.
After anchoring at Mangrove Bay, it was time to take a look at the fringing reefs. Fringing reefs are coral structures attached to the mainland or continental islands. In the Great Barrier Reef region, most fringing reefs are found around islands, particularly in this region. Sites like Mangrove Bay, Langford Reef and Butterfly Bay offer spectacular and thriving marine ecosystems close to shore. A quick snorkel anywhere here reveals amazing coral bommies and lots of ocean friends like parrotfish. We casually cruise through the rocky islands, exploring and soaking it all up.
Sea eagle. Right up in the tree. Way up the top there. Hang on, I'll just put it in reverse. Just like that. Two.
Those white-belly sea eagles flying above are after a fish just like me. But I think that they may be the better fishermen. Besides, they have local knowledge on their side.
I'm on dinner assignment. Fresh fish. Got the reef. Hang on. It's a big one. Huge. Okay. Nothing that we can't handle. We'll just go back over our tracks. Let's try that one again, shall we?
Did I end up catching anything? Sure. I caught a stunning sunset, and it was this big. The Great Barrier Reef to the east protects this cruising ground from the ocean swells. But with so many islands, it's hard to know which way to steer. We were gradually making our way to one of the most beautiful beaches in the world.
We left Whithaven Bay this morning and we're heading down the eastern side of Whitsunday Island to either Chalkies or Whitehaven.
We had to radio in regularly to let the sailing base know we were okay. Just further proof that these are renowned as some of the safest sailing grounds in the world.
Okay guys, just up here I'm going to turn into the breeze.
Soon we're coming up on one of the most coveted and famous natural spots on the planet. Nothing prepares people for the beauty of Hill Inlet and the famous Whitehaven beach. As we anchored up in paradise, even this aqua bunny was gobsmacked. Sparkling like a jewel, Whitehaven is the most perfect beach in the world. In fact, it's so white, it can be blinding.
This is the glamorous Whitehaven beach, which is classed as one of the best beaches in the world. It's not hard to see why when there's kilometres of white silica sand that squeaks beneath your toes.
The Whitehaven sand is 100% silica, and it is so pure, it indicates that during the drift, all heavy mineral sands and other impurities have been winnowed out, leaving the perfect white quartz sand. If I were a seabird, I too would hang out on this beautiful peninsula. It's a haven for species like these crested terns that welcome rest spots between their fishing trips. Seagulls and wading birds can also be found here, and secluded areas like these are important.
I'll show you how quickly the tide comes in here.
I'll walk to the end of this sand spit, and even as I get to the end, you can see the change already. Time and tide waits for no woman.
There's no place like it on the beach.
On this picture-perfect sand cave, the water was tempting, and I had to dive into the clear waters. Perhaps I could become shipwrecked here. No one would miss me, would they? There is everything I need here. Even food was passing my nose every second. Kidnapping the dinghy, we passed some time exploring Nara Inlet, waiting for the tide to drop. The waters went from turquoise blue to emerald green. When the waters are shallow, they get very warm, and stingrays just love warm water. And I just love stingrays. Hill Inlet snakes back behind Whitehaven Beach. The beauty about this inlet is it can change quickly. I've learned to watch weather and tides, and also how Mother Nature uses these patterns. But others often get caught out. The water was disappearing fast, but for us, that was good. There's another one over there. Everywhere you look, they're flapping and gliding. Stingrays have gained their name from the stinging barb on the end of their tails. That means when you're in warm, shallow water, you should make lots of noise. A stingray's natural reaction is to flee. I shot this footage before Steve Irwin's fateful encounter with a stingray. It was a tragic and one-in-a-million event that took the life of one of our greatest wildlife warriors. I'm sure he'd say, "Don't hate the stingray. It was only doing what it needed to do to survive." They'll never intentionally sting you. Remember, we're the ones in their territory, so we must respect that and use precaution. Don't pick up or corner a stingray. Just let them be.
It's amazing how much life there actually is in this little shallow lagoon when you get out of your dinghy. We've seen heaps of stingrays. I even saw a little batfish and a tiny little barracuda. Seems that a lot of the juvenile fish hang in these shallow areas. There are heaps of holes where the stingrays are.
But the shallow water had exposed more than the odd sandbank. I do a little dance to warn the rays that Lynn's in the neighbourhood.
Best to do the stingray shuttle.
Now I have to help the boat before the boat can help me again.
Oh, there's one little sandbank clear, it'll be right back in the channel. It's just amazing, the tide's gone out so far. Have a look at the baby mangroves. They're tiny little mangroves that are growing up on this bank here. You can see it's nearly as tall as me, but this mangrove will grow upwards, but then it will grow out. And as you can see down the bottom, it will get lots and lots and lots of roots that grow off it, and they all spread out.
Mangroves provide an important habitat. When the tide comes in, these areas can become a nursery.
And mangroves are pretty amazing because lots of life, as the tide comes in, lots of life will hide around these mangroves.
These are only small mangroves, but hopefully they'll grow and spread. They look a little sparse on a low tide, but this shows you how high the tide must get. I bet these leaves start at the high tide mark. It was time to head further up the inlet.
That was an eagle ray. That wasn't a cowtail, it was an eagle ray. It had the diamond-shaped wings, it wasn't perfectly round. They're really pretty.
Further up, the mangroves were much thicker, and I thought I might be able to catch a nice, tasty and fighting fit mangrove jack.
The secret when you're fishing for a mangrove jack is to cast in near the mangroves because they like to hide in all the root systems and everything, and also they like deep holes as well. So we'll try our luck because there's a lot of mangroves just here.
But even with my handy fishing knowledge, gleaned from ex-boyfriends mainly, we still came up empty-handed. That night we anchored, and the next morning I woke up to paradise again. With too much excess energy, it was time to burn some off. And what better way than having this all to myself?
my own private beach. Well, apart from the other people that are here.
Quick stretch to limber up and soak up the morning sun. Then head north and just keep running.
Looks like the tide's just about perfect for us. We're going just over to that point, northern end of Chalkies.
There's also a decent patch of reef here for a morning dip. These waters are protected, so the fish were not so shy. Dozens of fish swam among their coral homes. This is a decent-sized coral trout. In many areas they've been fished out, but here he can swim in peace. It was time to set sail again. I was getting used to pulling up the sails, winding up the jib, and using the wind to steer my course. I can see why people sail off into the sunset, becoming drawn into a wonderful life of perfect island hopping. It's like a road trip. Each day you drive till you find a new little town, meet the locals, eat them, and move on. Not with my luck fishing, anyway.
We're cruising to Thomas Island, which is in the southern part of the Whitsundays. It's such a perfect day. In fact, days like today, sailors would call the doldrums. It's so hot and it's so still. But we've found a way to cool off.
Between islands, when the waters are as still as this and it gets too warm on the boat, there's always time for a little goofing around. This was cool in every sense of the word.
How cool is that? Thank God I wore a one piece.
Time to drop anchor again. Ho-hum, another stunningly beautiful location. With more nautical miles under the keel in the last week than ever before, I was feeling more like a salty every day. I was now used to skippering for a living. The crew had taught me the nautical terms of a yachty and a bit of radio etiquette. We only had one more island to conquer. Thomas Island is the quiet achiever, remote and beautiful.
We're at Thomas Island, which is one of the most southern islands of the Whitsunday Island group. It's not as popular as the more northern of the Whitsunday Islands, but that means you can have secluded beaches like this one all to yourself.
For the final time, I swam in the Whitsunday waters, walked on the deserted beaches, and enjoyed the sounds of nature. I reflected on the magic and the beauty of these continental islands in the world's biggest natural marine park. These places are magnificent, and in a world full of people, we need to leave more areas untouched. Another day, another yacht to prepare for our journey. The morning wind became lazily snared in our sails and seemed to be asking us not to leave, or at least not to go by too quickly. But away from shelter, the winds picked up, and the thrill of the ocean and the passion for yachting grips us all. To move through this area, driven only by natural forces, is as inspiring as the place itself. The thrill doubles, sense of time ebbs away, and all you remember is standing on a leaning boat belting through the waves. And the only sounds you hear are the wind in your ears, and all you feel is the salt on your face, and you're happy. Until you realise that you're actually in a race. Then it gets serious.
We're doing a bit of batwinging. Sail on either side. It allows us to pick a direction and go straight to it.
Hamilton Island has a year-round tropical climate and is the most developed of the Whitsunday chain, with high-rises, resort facilities, and even permanent residents.
There's plenty to do at Hamilton Island, but we're actually going to try and get away from it all.
Hamilton also has some spectacular hikes around the island. With a number of trails to choose from, I thought I'd like to fit in as much as possible.
Escape Beach, 2,600. There's only 2,800 from the bottom.
In hiking this island, you realise how diverse the terrain really is. One minute you're hiking through beach, the next you have eucalypt forest on both sides. With a cast of Australian characters here, there's a little of everything. What a glamour spot! From the top of Passage Peak here, I can see every place that we visited this week on our sailing trip. Hamilton offers views over Hill Inlet, the coast and even the most southern of the Whitsunday Islands. Up here you can soar with the eagles and feel the fresh breeze straight off the water. After being on such a high above the world, there was only one thing left to do on Hamilton Island. You know how the old saying goes, when in the Whitsundays.
Time for a drink.
We rubbed wet elbows with a cool set at the pool bar, and that was fun for a while.
Life's the beach. Someone has to do it.
Reflecting on this journey made me realise how peaceful it must have been for the Aborigines when they had this land. Beautiful mountains, snaking coves, white sandy beaches and a turquoise ocean. This is paradise because man has not tried to change it. It's perfect just the way it is. This special place belongs to those who appreciate its beauty, its serenity, and its long history of those who were the caretakers of a paradise we can actually still glimpse.